Welcome to the Living Yoga Podcast. My name is Darren, and in this podcast, we talk about all things having to do with yoga and mindful living. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Vahid Coskun, whose name I probably just butchered. He's an amazing yoga teacher and author. He has a new book out called Practice Beyond the Posture, which I'm really excited about. It's just the title alone is something that speaks to my soul. And I'm going to post links to his website and other resources, social media, and whatnot, so that you can find his book, find more about him and his work, and check him out on social media. I'll also post links to my website and social media and ways you can get in touch with me. If you could, like, subscribe, and share this episode. And if you have comments or questions for either of us, you can drop them in the comment section of either Spotify or YouTube, or you can watch some of the reels I will pull from this on Instagram. With that, I'm going to bring in Vahid, and we're going to talk about practice beyond the posture. Vahid, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Hey Darren, thanks for having me here. Great to be here.
So how badly did I butcher your name is the first question.
You did it way better than average. It's just Wahid. And honestly, I didn't even know how to say my name because I'm Turkish and it's an Arabic name. So it's either Wahid or Wahid, but eventually it turns out to be Wahid.
Okay. Well, I did adequate. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
I can butcher the name Bob, so anyway, you are a renowned yoga teacher and author. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey to becoming a yoga teacher. And I'm assuming you grew up in Turkey?
Yeah.
And I think many people watching this grew up in the United States, although we do have people all over the world watching. I'm wondering how that experience might have been a little different than United States yoga.
I think from culturally growing up, we always had a deep underlying sense of spirituality, and there is an unseen world beyond the physical world. But my introduction to yoga was a little bit more for practical or pragmatic reasons. I was an athlete since I knew myself, and during college I started to have problems with my knees. I was in the crew team, so I needed some kind of a rehab, and there was a new yoga studio opening maybe 5 minutes from my college, and it was a hot yoga studio, the first one in Turkey ever. I started going there. I did their first month, and the way I interacted with those people just clicked. They gave me a job and they sent me to Los Angeles to be a hot yoga teacher, study with Bikram. And the rest is history, because I loved it so much that I finished, like the moment I finished school, I started traveling the world, jump around a whole bunch of places, and finally landed myself in the United States.
Nice. Where's home now?
I am right now in Washington, D.C.
You know, you're the second person I've interviewed in a week that lives in Washington, D.C. I must be
Who was the first
working the
one?
D.C. circuit. Um, who was it? It was Reggie Hubbard.
Reggie. Oh, yeah, he's
Yeah.
another hot yoga teacher.
I don't even
No?
know the temperature of his class. We talked about other stuff, but
Okay.
I love DC. I used to teach there a lot. It's such a rich, beautiful city. Love it. I'll have to come visit. So are you still teaching hot yoga? Have you sort of expanded doing other things, or is that your main?
Like in terms of the structural yoga class, hot yoga is the only class that I teach. But I used to be like a full-time teacher teaching 15 to 20 classes a week. Now I only teach 4 to 5 classes because I have a very deep kinship with the studios that I have grown up as a yoga teacher.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your book, Beyond the Posture, Practice Beyond the Posture. I love the title and I love the content, but I'm wondering, I think a lot of people get into yoga initially the way you did, the way I did early on, for sort of other reasons, like physical or stress management, or they're drawn to hot yoga or vinyasa yoga or something that is very physical because it's tangible and it has like a benefit you can point to. Um, and then there comes a point where many of us learn that that's a great part of yoga, but there's much more. I'm wondering if you could speak to that in your own journey. Like, how do you go from just, I want to fix my knees or support my knees, to writing a book about practice beyond the posture?
I think it started with my observations. Like, the hardest thing as a yoga teacher in a yoga class is that you don't really know why people are in that class. It could be just so they get a workout. It could be just so they have a little bit of a quiet time from the hustle of their life. It could be just so anything. And me as a teacher, not knowing what is the main thing that the people are working through, it made me very curious as I'm teaching. And in the structure that we are teaching, we have a dialogue to say, and I strictly adhere to the dialogue just because it gives a rhythm to the students so they know what to expect from the class. And as I am kind of giving the class, it's like a song, or like the whole class is like a mantra, because people have been practicing this for a long time. They know what to expect and what's going to come. It gave me a lot of room to be able to observe the state of mind that they are in. No, I'm an observer. I am kind of taking pride in the sense that I can see through things and see through people, not in a like a magical way, but when you quieten your mind, you can hear other people's mind, or not necessarily maybe
Hmm.
what they think, but where they are and what kind of state of mind they are going through the moment. And
Hmm.
when I observe them, I would come up with little, let's say, pearls of wisdom. One of my main things was I would see people suffer physically, but they would also suffer mentally. Like, they are tired, they are exhausted, they fall out of the posture, and the moment they fall out of the posture, they start to blame themselves, guilt themselves, or look at the teacher if the teacher saw what they did. And in those moments, I would catch a little bit of their mental dialogue when they think to themselves. And I would say, do you have to suffer when your body is suffering? Like little bits of moments from the class. And over the years, 5 and 6 years, I took little notes like this. And
Hmm.
eventually, when I gathered all these notes last year, it was enough, more than enough, to make a book. And I felt like it was my service to introduce people to their own thinking.
Hmm. Well, let's dive a little deeper then. What are some of the observations? What made the final edit? What are a few of the key points for people that maybe have that intuitive sense that there's something happening here that's beyond just me touching my toes or strengthening more, getting more flexible? What made it into the book?
When I gathered all these observations, and it wasn't a book yet, it was just a cluster of notes, I had to draw some guidelines in terms of what would actually be presented in the book. So I started with thinking, what is a good reason to do yoga? And I had to think in a way that would encompass everybody who is doing yoga. So it couldn't be something that is strictly physical or strictly spiritual or anything. And the reason, or the best intention that I found to do yoga, was to learn more about yourself. An attitude of curiosity in a stream in which all of your attention is diverted back to yourself. So after I set that intention part clear, I had to do another thing, which is the definition of yoga is the union of mind, body, and spirit. But this union is so closely entangled that we as regular human beings don't know the difference between the two. So when you affect the body, the mind inadvertently gets affected. It's like an equation. Like when I'm happy, I am breathing calm, cool, quiet. When I am angry, I am breathing sharp, short, frustrated. So when you take the body and the mind a little bit more apart, yes, they are the one thing, they are united, but when you differentiate between the two and use your breath as the medium to interact with both, because the language of the body is a little bit different than the language of the mind, and the common translator between the two is your breath. So I take the people who know very well what the body is going through, and I show them the patterns, how this enmeshment or entanglement with the state of your body can be differentiated from the reflexive attitude of the mind. Like, you don't have to feel bad when your body is suffering. Actually, if you reframe that thought, you can even feel happy mentally when your body is suffering, because maybe that suffering is strengthening your willpower, just the way you want to think about it. So when I had to categorize this, the main things like you asked was, there came maybe 4 different student types. One is, and then I correlated this with the relationship with authority, because there is the authority of the teacher in class, and how you relate to that authority is kind of reflecting of how you relate to your own authority too. Because some people are like, when they fall, they look at the teacher. Some people dismiss the instructions of the teacher or blames the teacher. Some people adores the teacher and then think that that's the only way. And some people just use the teacher as a tool so they get to know more about themselves.
Yeah.
So I basically bring these not subconscious but maybe unconscious dynamics of the body and the mind a little bit more to the surface, with the most broad umbrella of how you regard yourself as a person, like who you think you are when nobody is listening to you.
Um, what has the reaction of your students been to this? And the reason I ask this is, I think that there are some people who might be ready for what you're saying. They're sort of curious already, might be even asking the questions ahead of time. But then there might be people who are sort of saying, yeah, I just came because I want to touch my toes. I just want to
Exactly.
lose a little weight. I want to heal my body. Or I'm just under a lot of stress. Can you just help me manage my stress and not take me too deep into this? Have you found any resistance to what you're doing? I mean, I certainly feel some of that resistance in my classes because you and I have a very similar approach, different but similar, in that we want to take people to that deeper place.
I think the resistance comes if you want to change something. Like, nobody wants to be changed, but everybody likes changing at their own will. So whenever I see resistance, I actually welcome it with big arms and immediately divert my attention away from it, because and I'm coming from a relatively authoritarian or a religious background. And if somebody showed up in my life with something that they are going to teach to me, I wouldn't learn. So I'm
Mm.
the same person. If I think I can teach something to this person, I'm entitled to it. And I would invite them that there might be a little bit more than what they are going through, but it's totally up to them. And one of the most quote unquote enlightened students that I have is, I asked this guy, let's call him Joe. I said, Joe, there is some things that I can point, because this guy has been my student for 3 years. And I told him, there's some things that I can point about some of the poses that might change the way you experience the class. Would you like me to mention some? And this was in the lobby. This was not during class. And he looked
Mm.
at me, he smiled, and he said, Wahid, I am very happy and comfortable with the problems that I have right now. I don't necessarily want to dive into new ones. I'm just content where I am. And I just loved him. He was honest. He was sincere.
Yeah.
Some people would be like, oh, yeah, tell me. And then they roll their eyes and then go back. So you really have to.
Um, you mentioned being raised in a religious culture tradition. In
May I
Turkey, were you
finish what I
raised?
wanted to say?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. I thought you were done.
No, no. So you really have to be open to why people are there. And that guy was just there so he can just maintain his daily routine. Yoga is in the system now, it's part of it. And he was just happy. So the resistance I actually is not something that I come across because I am looking for somebody who is looking to learn something. And in that position, if there is resistance, I have like, if there's 30 people, one doesn't want to teach, one doesn't want to take, I still am responsible for the other 29.
Um, have you heard the adage in India, when you find your guru, you have to ask 3 times before they'll say yes?
No.
There's like this idea of you, the guru doesn't want you, unlike Western yoga where we'll take anyone, just give me some money and you can take my class. In India, the gurus are like, no, not until you're ready, not
Ah,
until you're
yeah.
ready. And you really have to show up and prove that I'm hungry for this before they'll even consider you, which is very different. And I think in that sense, people's minds are sort of ready for something more. They're seeking it, and it's not that being forced on them. Um, what I was going to ask you a minute ago before I interrupted, I
Actually,
apologize, was you mentioned being raised in a religious setting, culture. Um, you were raised in Turkey? Were you raised Muslim or?
correct.
And how is, like, I was raised Catholic, so I have a lot of the Christian stuff following me around. Some of it was really good, some of it not. I'm wondering how the religion of your upbringing, and perhaps the religion of your adulthood, I don't know, how that intersects with, or how it informs your yoga teaching, your book, or maybe not at all.
I grew up or I was raised as Muslim, and praise to God, I'm Muslim right now. But there was a nice long period in which I was none of it, any of it. I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to do anything with it. The problem with religion is not religion. The problem with religion is people. I'm a person and I learned the ways of God, how God praises and punishes people. And I learned it so much that without applying any of those things on me, I start to preach it to other people. Hey, there is God and he puts you in hell or heaven. And if you don't obey God, or if you don't do as I tell you or as I teach you to do, then you are going to be judged as such and such. So this gives a lot of power to that individual who is preaching the word of God. And this guy is nobody any different than just your regular town priest or imam or anybody. So in order for me to really love religion, I had to distance myself so far away from any organized religion. And when I pull myself all out, I'm doing the yoga training, we like Bhagavad Gita's, Upanishads, the Taos and Daos. When you read everything, you have to understand that, hey, what all these guys are talking about is the same thing. It's just a little bit of a different language. The parallels and The stories are a little bit different, but they are all talking about the same thing. And this gave me two realizations. Okay, like what I believe is right, what everybody else is believing is right. If I'm believing in that universal energy God, there is today 8 billion expressions of him. And understanding this universally, but I am also not the universe. I'm an individual person. So I had to think that, okay, like God is communication, God is internet or Wi-Fi, and everybody has their own operating system. Like somebody who is joining this call on an iOS machine is still on the call, just like somebody else who is joining this call on an Android machine, and one is not necessarily better than the other, although people make a lot of arguments. So I am now looking at religion as an operating system, which is very helpful, if not infiltrated with the power struggle of quote unquote people.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to put an adjective on it, but like when I distance myself from religious people, then I start enjoying the beauty of any and all religion.
Yeah. One of my favorite comedians, Lenny Bruce, has a famous quote that every day people are leaving church and finding God. And I've found that to be very true. Like organized religion has its place. It can be really powerful for people to have that sense of community, but it can also be just tell me what to believe. Whereas something like yoga is you're going within yourself and you're asking the tough questions that religions attempt to answer, but you're sort of arriving at your own personal truth. And for me, that's always felt more authentic than going and hearing somebody else tell me what God is or what I should believe or what happens when we die or whatever the issue happens to be. So what's next for you? You're living in DC. Are you going to be traveling and teaching? Are you going to be moving to the West Coast so I can take one of your classes easily? Or are you any plans to go back to Turkey or write a new book? What do you got on the back burner?
I mean, on the back burner, there is a lot of new books on. Before I wrote this book, I wrote another short story book. It's called Teachings of a Delusional Monk. And it's basically the spiritual shenanigans that, or like the philosophies that I take in my mind and then chew it with life and unconditional love and different perspectives of this human condition. So there's a next book to that one, which I am maybe 40-50% done with the manuscript. So there's still a lot of way to go. I am going to do a little bit of a tour, visiting the studios in the West Coast and California, Texas, Florida in the cold months. And I will set up the Northeast and Northwest maybe in the warmer ones.
Mm.
And the rest of my journey is just being open to invitations when people want to have me speak, when people want to have me in their life and take me to the basement or to the back door, and we get to discuss what they believe, who they are, and how
Mm.
their life is kind of affected by it.
Mm.
And I'm a lifelong student of myself, so wherever I go, I show up and I get to enjoy myself.
Yeah. I used to travel a lot and teach before I became a dad, and for some reason, I was never as smart as you. Always booked like Minneapolis in January. It was so cold, and then go to someplace like Texas or, someplace ungodly hot in the summer.
Arizona
It,
in July.
it really makes no sense, but I did it like 5 years in a row. Um, so if folks wanted to find your book, if they wanted to get in touch with you, obviously this podcast reaches people all over the world, mostly in the United States, but all over the world. Do you have online offerings? Where can they find your book? How can they learn more about your teaching? If they happen to be in DC, how can they find you or get your travel schedule, which is coming up? What's the best way for them to reach
So
out
for
to
all
you?
the updates, they can visit my website, which has my corporate mindfulness programs, and I throw wellness parties for what is right now mid-sized companies around DC. And I have my tags for the private coaching sessions and the events page that they can get into my book signings or find the details of the retreats or the places that I'm going to teach in my website, which is wellnesssmtheservices.com. They can Amazon search my book, Practice Beyond the Posture, Meet Yourself Through the Mental Dialogues of Yoga, and Stay in Charge of Who You Are. And finally, personally, if they want to reach out to me, I think the best way will be through Instagram, which my handle is ACOSKUN. I'm sure we are going to put it up there.
Excellent. Wahid, it was amazing to chat with you. I'm super excited about your new book. And are you going to make it to the Bay Area? You said you're coming to California. Will it be anything in the Bay Area or just Southern California? Or you're
It
not
is
sure
not
yet?
planned yet, but if it happens, it won't happen before January. So I will have ample time to let you know.
Excellent. Let me know, and maybe I can help you promote your event, your workshop a little bit if you're in this area. I'd love to have you here.
And I would love
Um,
to take your class in the cathedral. You said you are teaching in.
yeah, I teach at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. You can be my special guest. I'd love to have you there. I'll even maybe you can lead the 7 ohms at the end or something
Uh
if you're
just what
feeling.
I would be delighted to take part and just be in there and take your class.
Uh, well, I'm sure our paths are going to cross soon. I'm really excited for your new book, and at some point, probably after my son is off to college and I'm traveling again, I will stop by and see you in DC.
I'm looking forward to it, and kudos to your main duty as of right now as a father. We need more good fathers like you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's the best part of my life. I've had an awesome life, but being a father is the best part by far. I can't describe how awesome it is. Um, okay, so I'm going to put links to everything we mentioned today in the show notes so you can quickly click through and get his book, find his website, my website. Of course, you can leave comments or questions, and we will keep an eye on that and try to respond as best we can. If you want to help me get the word out about yoga and bringing yoga beyond the postures, please consider subscribing to this channel and connecting with me on social media so that you can be in touch with all the future episodes we're going to do. I'll see you all in another episode soon.